I'm going to use French Ultramarine Blue. It's one of my favorite blues. It's an oldie but goodie. It's a very familiar paint color. It's a sediment color. It has ability to granulate. Granulate just means that it looks like it's kind of dispersing, like you can see almost the segmentation or like the particles of it. Okay, so when you're creating a wash, some of the things you want to keep in mind for creating a wash is, first of all, how big is the space that you're filling up? However big that is, you need to have enough paint for that space, and not just enough paint, more than enough paint. So this is enough paint to fill this little area. This watercolor is the tubes are very small. You get the volume with the water. So I'm gonna use my little pipette here. That's a very handy thing to have. If you don't have it, then you're basically just taking the water from your cup and you're using it, dripping it from your brush like this. Make sure you have a clean brush. So I'm gonna just mix all of this up because, and I don't usually do this with all just one color, but I'm going to make a lot of this. I will usually create a wash by putting the paint in the well and then mixing the colors up in the palette here. Now you want to make sure that you have enough volume of paint here. And some of this paint is in the ferrules. It's very, you don't want any thickness to this. You want it pretty thin. Okay, now that's pretty dark. Okay. So when we do this, I actually should put this at an angle at about like 30 degrees. So you can just put like a roll of tape behind it. And when you angle it, then the paint will follow gravity. You want the paint to kind of roll down your page. Okay. Make sure you have enough paint in your volume, and you want to start up at the top. And you want to have a lot of a lot of paint in your brush. Start at the top, and you want to use the tip of your brush to follow the edges of your shape for your rectangle. And you want to do a back and forth motion. And very slowly, you're just going to kind of inch down the page. And as you're doing that, you're going to be using up the paint. And when you notice that you're running out of paint, before you even run out of paint, you have to have this. I want you to make sure that you're always having this wet edge here. Okay. Do not add any extra water to it. And you paint right on top of that. And what you're doing is you're basically pulling that color down. And if you're using this French ultramarine blue, this is a granulation blue color, you want to make sure that you're kind of going, moving that brush on the paper back and forth, lowering that paint's edge very slowly. And then when you stop painting, always make sure you have a wet edge and get more paint on your brush. When you come back to your space of your painting, you're going to go back into the area that you just painted and continue to bring that down. You want to do this kind of carefully and slowly so that you're creating a nice edge on the edges of your shape. Okay, you just keep going. And you're almost kind of rubbing in the last area that you painted. The brush, any brush that will hold enough paint for the size of the space. So I want to have a little bit more control over it. And it's important that you just keep going. The other thing is you do not want to go back up. You're only going down. You're only continuing on. Because if you go back up into that area, that part of there is already starting to dry. And we don't want to mess with that. Okay, so I don't need any more paint. I'm coming to the end of my shape. And when I get to the end of my shape, I'm going to have all this excess paint, and I don't want that to sit there. So I'm going to bring that all the way down the edge. And now I have this beautiful bead at the very bottom. Fill that up really carefully. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, I can take this brush and rinse it off, dry it, and now I have a damp brush. Okay, and now with this damp brush, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this to soak up this extra paint. And I'm gonna use this paper towel, this rag next to here. And I'm basically just, it's like, it's acting like a straw. And I'm just using the tip of it to pick up this extra paint here because I don't want it too wet. I want it to be the same level of wetness as everything else above it. If I were to leave that, this would take longer to dry than everything else.